But you know, I'm gonna cut it some slack. It's an early SNES game, and these are things that they could fix in the sequel. They didn't do that. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. Actraiser 2, known by many as a disappointment compared to the original, but is it? Let's start at the beginning. Actraiser 2 is a follow-up to Actraiser. Now you see, this is the rigorous fact-finding you can expect from these videos. Once again made by Quintet for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. The minions of Tanzra have gone and tossed them some Phoenix down, so it's once again up to you to travel the world killing demons until there ain't no demons left to kill. Okay, I'm gonna get this part out of the way early. There is absolutely no city building aspect anywhere in Actraiser 2. The most unique and defining part of the original has been completely excised from its sequel. And for me, this was a big disappointment. Now, the combat and the platforming of the original weren't bad, but having both elements was kind of what made it special. Now, luckily, the combat here has been improved quite a lot, although this does come with some caveats. Let me explain. The first thing you'll notice is that the movement feels a lot less clunky. You're given wings, which grants you a double jump and a glide maneuver. Jumping for a third time will make you descend straight downward. Now this increased moveset is both a blessing and a curse. For instance, the double jump causes you to immediately go into the glide move, and landing from a glide causes you to skid on whatever surface you're landing on. Now this isn't always an issue, but when the game wants you to do precise platforming over damaging gunk or insta-death pits or spikes, it can become a bit of a problem. Now you can just either press jump again or hold down to descend straight downward, but in the heat of the moment you may not always remember to do that. Holding down and attacking while gliding causes you to do a glide stab thingy that does a lot more damage. You also have a down stab move that's super useful in the right situations. Standing still or holding one of the R buttons on the controller has you block incoming attacks with your shield. Now this is very important if you want to be less dead. You also have the ability to attack and block at different angles this time around, which is great because this game likes to throw things at you from every friggin' direction. Since there's no city building, gone are the RPG elements. So the master you start with is exactly as strong as the one you end the game with. For the most part, but I'll come back to that. Also, you no longer gain new magic as you play, so instead spells are carried out by holding down the attack button to charge up your magic and releasing the button to perform the spell. Now, which spell you do depends on your character's position. So for example, standing still and releasing attack creates a fire barrage, holding up on the controller lobs magic orbs, ducking creates a shield. Hopefully this is making sense. Hell, there are 2 different spells you can do depending on how you're gliding. It's not a bad way to handle magic, but it can be a touch awkward. All of this puts an increased emphasis on skill over building your strength before you enter combat. And I hope you brought your skill because this game is fuck hard! In the previous video, I mentioned how Actraiser was a little on the easy side, and it was. I never really struggled to beat it, and the worst of it was probably Deathheim, the final stage, taking me a few extra tries. But merciful tie-dyed Jesus, this game is not playing around. The enemies do a lot of damage, and they will not hesitate to swarm the ever-loving crap out of you. Fuck, I'm unnormal? They even included a few moments that I'd argue are genuinely unfair. Like here, where they put insta-kill spikes at the bottom of this pit that you have to go down. So a lot of people are gonna die here at least once. Yeah, I know it's not a big deal, and they are trying to kill you, but that's no excuse for being rude. Dude, I love Crab Platform. I no longer love Crab Platform. Another big change is the lack of a save feature. It seems like it's gonna have you save your game, and then it gives you a password. Thanks, guy. I mean, at least it's pretty easy to write down, even with my handwriting. Like the last game, there is no real game over state. You have 3 lives, plus the odd extra lives that you find while playing to do what you need to do. If you die, it's back to the map to either try again or look for another level. So the majority of the challenge and the frustration comes from being booted back to the start of some pretty lengthy stages after a new boss or mini-boss hands you your ass. Or you just fall into the void like a dipshit. That's nice. Now, where Actraiser had 1 boss rush stage, this game says screw that and gives you 2. The first of which is the Tower of Souls, where you have a whole level before you get to fight some of the game's mini-bosses back to back. And honestly, the stage leading up to the boss rush is kinda the hardest part. After that, it's a return to Deathheim, where the game just up and takes your magic away. But in return, it gives you an unlimited ranged attack, and frankly, I'm here for it.
Zap!
After fighting through some of the bosses again, I'm sorry, Goblin Mage. It's time to take on Tansra. And he's grown since we last saw him. Just look at those evil, meaty thighs. Luckily, he's one of the easier bosses in the game, especially once you realize you can reliably block his blast attack with your shield. Once he's dead, the epilogue basically says that the series is over because the master disappeared. But all the people you never actually interacted with will remember you forever. The end. So, is it a disappointment? Honestly, that's a little hard to say. It's definitely not a bad game. It did delete the series-defining trade and replaced it with rectal puckering difficulty, but there's still a lot to like here, especially if you appreciate a game that likes to smack you around a bit and make you feel bad about yourself. And isn't that what retro gaming is really all about? Actraiser 2 gets a solid and respectable 7 out of 10. Not quite as magical as the first, but definitely worth your time. Matt, out.